I wanted to tell you a bit about my grandmother's funeral. Um, this is not a fun subject, but I promise there will be some jokes along the way. So stay tuned, and here we go. The funeral was this past Sunday, which was November 5th, if I remember correctly. Um, first of all is the limo. This is a story in and of itself. This is going to be a long video, I'm telling you right now. You already saw probably how long it is, so here we go. This all started about 7 years ago, and they wanted to get all the funeral arrangements for my grandmother because she was, 90 something years old then. So they wanted to get everything squared away right away. So they went to the funeral home and they set everything up and did all that, and my mother said, "We need a limo." And my dad, being cheap, said, "It's your mother. Why do you need a limo? She's not going to be alive, you know." And she says, "I'm not going to be in any condition to drive." Well, that doesn't make a difference because my dad said, "I can drive you just fine. And the 87 Camry will take us there." You know, whatever it was. So, anyway, my mother said, "No, we need a limo." All right, anyway, they booked the limo, everything's all set. So, my mother's out, this is a couple of months later, and my grandmother was still with it upstairs, so my dad was talking to her and said, "Do you really need the limo?" And she says, "No, I don't need the limo. I'm not going to be in it," obviously, so I have no need for that at all. There's no reason to spend that kind of money on it. And the limo was $545. Now, you can get a limo for a private limo for probably a lot less than that. So that was, you're here, they're dead, you need a limo kind of thing, and that's that. So anyway, it was paid. They went back to the funeral home and they said, "We want to cancel the limo." And they said, "Absolutely no problem." And they refunded the 545. Couple weeks go by, my mother catches wind of this and says, "No, absolutely not. We need a limo." So they went back to the funeral home, my grandmother and my mother, and they paid in cash $545. So the limo's all set. Years go by, now my grandmother passes. Okay, the funeral home calls and says, "Your limo's not paid." "No, we paid that, yes, and we refunded that, and then my wife came in and paid you cash." "We don't have any record of that." I'm sorry, the cats are going apeshit as usual. "We don't have any record of that. Do you have a receipt?" So my father says to my mother, "Where's the receipt?" And she says, "I gave it to my mother. She put it in one of her bags." Well, that was 7 years ago. My grandmother had about 197 different bags, so there's no way that receipt will ever be found. So there's nothing. Now, the next question is, shouldn't the funeral home have a copy of this? Of course they should. Now, I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but probably what happened is my mother did go in and paid cash for the limo, and the guy put the money in the desk drawer. They walked out, he pocketed it, and that's that. Now it's the day of, and what are you going to do? You're just out of luck. Sorry, you have to pay for it. Well, this limo ride cost over $1,000, and it was myself, the whiff, and my mother and father, and we got in the car. The limo driver was very nice, and interestingly enough, the seatbelt where my mother was sitting didn't want to pull out of the retractor. It was stuck. Like if you ever pull the seatbelt too fast on your car and it jams like that, that's what this was doing. It was jamming up like that no matter how slowly you'd pull it. So we pulled over, the limo driver got out, and he says, "I don't understand this. This is a brand new car, blah, blah, blah." But anyway, he got it pulled out. She put her seatbelt on. We get to the funeral home. Now there's another interesting thing involved. My mother has smoked for ever. She smoked while she was pregnant with me and with my sister, not heeding the Surgeon General's warning. But I guess I'm alive, so that's good. Anyways, across the way, outside of the cemetery, because my grandmother opted to do what's called a graveside ceremony, where there's no funeral home involved. You go straight to the cemetery, and that's the whole thing. So off in the distance is like either a recycling plant or a garbage station or something like that, and there's smokestacks, and they're all emitting that steam, vapor, smoke, whatever you want to call it. It just happened to be the right day, so you saw all that stuff going all the whole time. And as we pull into the cemetery and see that, my mother points over to them and says, "You see those smokestacks over there?" And I said, "Is that so your mother can remember you by it?" So that was the first joke. But my mother told a story, something I never knew. Years ago, she used to work for a company called Koch International, and it was right in that area. I was in like the 5th grade. I never knew it was all the way out there, but that's where it was. Anyways, it was like a factory, and Koch would import music from any number of different artists, and then they would blister pack CDs. They would shrink wrap cassette tapes and shrink wrap albums and stuff like that. And I even went with her once. I just never remembered where it was. I went with her once out there, and it was back in the old days, probably in the late 80s, early 90s, something like that. Late 80s it was. And I actually blister packed a few CDs and shrink wrapped a couple of cassettes, and it was kind of cool to see that. She worked with a lady named Erica. Erica was German as German could be. Now remember, like I said, this Koch place was right near this whole thing with the plant there with the smokestacks and that. Now Erica was great because she knew my mother was Jewish, and of course I am as well. And she says, "You see that? What? The smoke coming out." "Yeah, they're baking cookies." So that was quite off color, but still kind of funny. Okay, that was that. We go. It's a bunch of milling around and doing stuff, waiting for people to show up, all that blah, blah, blah. And the hearse is parked there, and the limo is parked there. So now they said that we have to identify Grandma. Now, in the Jewish faith, this is a closed casket, so nobody sees the body. This is just how it's done. I'm not questioning anything, but they did have to open it for us. So they open the back of the hearse, and they undo the thing and pull out the casket and lift the lid, and we look in, and there's Grandma. That's her. All right, so that's it. They put that back in and close up the hearse, and a couple more minutes go by, and my mother says to my sister and I, "Come, we have to walk." I said, "Walk? Walk where? What are you talking about?" "Come over here." So we go and we stand behind the hearse. Okay, this is where religion takes a little bit of a turn for not making sense in today's world. I don't know what the Jewish year is. Last I remembered, it was like 5,800 something, maybe. I don't even remember. It's somewhere in the 5,000, high 5,000 range, whatever it is. We don't go by 2017 AD or anything like that if you follow the Jewish calendar, which nobody does in this country. Okay, so anyways, it's been over 5,000 years since this custom came about. And we go behind the hearse, the driver gets in the hearse, and he puts it in gear and starts like riding the brake and creeping it forward very slowly, creeping it forward very slowly. And we walked behind the hearse, following it for maybe about 10 paces or so. After that, he puts it in park and gets out of the hearse, and I said to my mother, "What in the hell is that?" She said, "That's an old custom from back in the day." I said, "Okay, what is the significance?" She says, "Back in the days of the horse and buggy and all that, the casket would be loaded onto the buggy and the horse and all that, and then you would follow the horse and buggy over to the gravesite itself." I said, "Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But let's talk realistically for a moment. What about all the carbon monoxide I just breathed in?" You see how it doesn't make sense? A lot of these customs, and I can make fun of this because I am one, they just don't make sense in this day and age. Another one, just as an aside, Passover, you have to get what's called all the chumetz. That's basically get all the shit out of your house and buy all the overpriced kosher for Passover stuff. Now, you could have had a night where you ate crackers in bed or something like that, and maybe a crumb fell off that, and let's say your bed is pushed up in the corner against the wall. And there's no way to get to it unless you pull the bed out and that, but the whole idea is that you have to get rid of all of the chametz in your house. So you have to go around and search for it. So they give you a little scoop thing, and they give you not a brush or anything, they give you a feather, a long white feather. And that's so you can brush the stuff into the pan kind of thing. Dustpan and broom. And because you're going to have to see in these dark areas, they give you a candle. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to climb on my belly, scurry under the bed with a lit candle. Does this make sense anymore? And I don't know if God is going to condone these LED flashlights and shit like that. I don't think that's going to happen. So there's all these archaic customs. And then my mother likes to make up all of these Jewish laws. I don't know if she's making them up. Probably they are real. But then she says qualifications to them to better fit her lifestyle. And we'll get to that later. Anyways, pretty much we go there, and of course there's the rabbi, and a lot of people gathered, and I did tell XJoe81X about this. We've been friends for over 20 years, so it was quite kind that he showed up, and his wife came along too, so that was really also kind. But another person I didn't expect to see was his mother. I thought that was really nice that she came out to go to this, so that was really nice, and her son-in-law was also there. Her daughter was sick with a cold or something, so she didn't attend. But there was a nice gathering of people, and I also saw some other people I haven't seen in years. My mother's Aunt Sonia, so I guess that would be my great aunt Sonia. I haven't seen her in I don't know how long, but she says, "You came over to my house once years ago and fixed something." I said, "Yes, I remember that, of course." And then her cousin Cheryl was there. And Cheryl used to live kind of locally, and she says, "You came over and built a computer desk in my house," and that, and I remember that also. I said, "Yes, I remember it." Her son was there even, and I remembered her son a bit, or at least his name. And then there was another cousin of hers, Cousin Stevie. Now, this is going back. I remember my grandmother saying about how Cousin Stevie got a job with Dell Computer Corporation, and went and moved to Texas with his wife and his daughter, and started a new life there with a great job with Dell. And my grandmother was always saying all these great things. He's going to Texas, working for Dell, Michael Dell. He's working for Dell Computer, Michael Dell Computer, this and that. And she would go on about the whole thing. Texas, all these things. And here's Cousin Stevie, and I'm saying, holy crap, I haven't seen this guy since my bar mitzvah, maybe, which was 25 years ago. So I haven't seen this guy in forever, but I recognized him, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing here? And I said to my mother, and she said, "Oh yeah, years ago they got divorced and he moved back into Brooklyn." When were you ever going to tell me this? So anyways, what happened was the ceremony gets started, and the grave is already dug out. So they get the Puerto Rican guys with something like a hand truck or cart, or put the casket on that out of the hearse and wheel it in there, and 4 guys take this thing and lower it into the hole in the ground, and it's sitting there. And right off to the side was a pile of dirt, and there were 2 shovels in there. I'll get back to that. So anyway, the rabbi was there, and he says, "We're gathered here. My grandmother Sarah has passed on," and he said a bunch of nice words and stuff like that. He never met my parents. He never met my grandmother. Nothing. They had a 15-minute. My parents and him had a 15-minute phone conversation a couple nights before, and then spoke to them for about 5 minutes on the day of. And he really gave a beautiful, I don't know the word, sermon, for lack of a better term. He gave a really nice thing. Now, in the month of October, I was having a bunch of thoughts come through my mind that time for my grandmother was really running out. I just had these premonitions, and I had all these thoughts going through my mind. First thought was, ooh, I wonder if my suit still fits. So we had to make a mad dash for that the day before. And I was also thinking, oh yeah, time is really running out. I said, there is a possibility that when this happens, I may be called upon to speak. And then, of course, I started thinking about this, and I put together a lot of different thoughts in my mind. My brain needs to be defragmented, and for some reason defrag.exe is corrupt, and it doesn't run anymore. And it's just corrupt, and I jump around from thing to thing all the time. This is just my nature. So, anyways, I have this speech, but it's, the last part is first, the first part is last, and everything's jumbled up in the middle and all that. And I just had these things, and I'm going to give you a rendition of what I may have said. I don't remember because it was sort of off the cuff in that. So let me just replay this in my mind quick, and then I'll give you the speech. So the speech went something like this. I addressed everybody in the group there, and I said, for those of you who don't know, Sarah was my grandmother. I'm going to call her Grandma, and I'm going to refer to her as such. Now, most of the family has always seen me as rather reserved and quiet, but this time I was really able to just speak from the heart. And this was a pretty good speech, if I do say so myself, and everybody else told me. It went something like, Grandma was born in 1919, and she grew up in the Roaring '20s. When she was 10 years old, the crash of '29 happened, and life did a complete 180. And now she had to learn to scrimp and save. She saved every napkin that she ever came across. And the crowd sort of mumbled or laughed or something like that. And I said, but that's what you did back in those days, just to make ends meet. That gave Grandma a huge will to live and to get by and to be able to make do with the very, very little that you had. I remember one time, back in about 1985, Long Island was hit with a hurricane called Hurricane Gloria. And a few people nodded their head in agreement, they remember it. And it was on a Friday. And I remember that she spoke to my mother beforehand, and my mother says, I'm not coming out in this. And Grandma's like, no, I have to come out for the kids. And the trains were still running, and she came out and she walked about a mile through the hurricane from the train station back to the house. The Great Depression gave Grandma sort of a tough as nails persona, and using that through life, she was able to make it all the way to 98. I'm not here today to mourn her death, but rather to celebrate her life. And that was pretty much where it ended off. I had a few other things that I wanted to say, but I just gave the abridged version. One of the other things to sort of lighten the mood a little bit that I might have said would have been, one thing I should have said was, Grandma was not just my grandma. She was grandma to everybody. She helped everybody throughout life. No matter how little she had, she always made it a point to make sure everybody else's well-being was good. And another thing I might have said was, Grandma is like my classic car. Maybe rusty in spots, puts out noxious toxins, but we love her for the character. But I didn't end up saying that. Anyways, a couple more prayers and Rabbi rambling on about stuff. And then the ceremony finished, and another custom, which I understand, but it's really eerie. Like I said, there's a pile of dirt sitting next to the open hole in the ground where the casket now lies, and there's a couple of shovels in there. And the rabbi said that the immediate family will go first, followed by anybody else who would like to. And you go and you take a shovel full of dirt and put it in the hole, and put the shovel back into the pile. You don't hand it off to anybody else, because if you did, then allegedly you're passing your grief off to them. So whatever these campfire story bullshits are. So that's all fine and good. And I know it sounds a little macabre to, bury your own dead. But that's what was done. And, it's an ancient custom and all that. And that's all fine and good. And again, it's just a shovelful. You're not sitting there, sweating up a storm and working in your nice suit or anything like that. But the thing that really, really irks me is when the first couple of shovelfuls of dirt go in and they hit the box in the ground. That sound really, really brings the finality of it home. And that's when it really, really hurts at that point. And I will say that I was able to hold my shit together through everything, including doing that and hearing the other shovelfuls of dirt go in there. And then my mother turned around and said, "That was a beautiful speech." And then I was a basket case for a couple of minutes and regained my composure. And we got back in the limo and went back to the house, and a few people followed us, and that was that. And we sat around, and now it's the sitting Shiva process, and a lot of you have probably heard that, and here's pretty much the lowdown on it. The one who is in grief, so this would be my mother because it was her mother, is supposed to sit there with no luxuries. That means no TV, no phone, no tablet, no computer, blah, blah, blah. Again, how does this play out in this day and age? Your phone blangs and immediately there you are. Oh my God, let me text this one back. Oh, let's FaceTime this one. Let's Skype that one. Blah, 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 blah. Supposed to do none of that. I'd love to see that actually play out. I would really love to sit there for a week at somebody else's Shiva and see all this, but it'll never come to pass. Anyways, you're supposed to sit on, the funeral home gives you these cardboard boxes. Looks just like a cardboard box, but the inside is reinforced. Almost looks like if you open it up, you could store wine in it. And it's this cardboard thing, and you're supposed to sit on that because you're not supposed to be comfortable. For other people who can't really sit on it, or it's not holding their weight or anything like that, allegedly, and I don't know who makes these rules up and all this crap, allegedly you're also allowed to sit on the floor. Okay. So what does my mother do? She tests it out and says, "Oh, I can't get up from here. No. They also say that if you have mobility problems, you can sit in a hard chair." Did Moses bring this shit down on the Ten Commandments? Because I don't fucking remember this. She makes up anything to fit her lifestyle about it, and it really bothers me. Like anything like Yom Kippur, you're supposed to fast all day. And as kids, oh, Jewish, oh, yeah. And, kids, you have to fast all day. Oh, God, what are we going to do? We can't eat all day. Oh, my God, and we're going stir crazy and all this stuff. And school was even out then on a day like that because it's a holy day. And, anyway. So all that, and my mother would sit there and she would eat. And we'd say, "What the hell are you doing?" "Oh, for people that get headaches or would become sick if they don't eat, it's okay." Was that on the Ten Commandments too? Because I don't remember that shit either. I love how she just makes this stuff up as she goes along. But anyway, that was that. And I went back. There's a joke here also. Sitting Shiva, that's Shiva, Shiva, not shiver, as most people think, shiver or anything like that. But the funny thing is, my dad's house is always cold. If he puts the heat on, I think it goes up to 54 degrees. So you really would be sitting shiver in his house. And of course, if it were the summer, you'd be sitting and schwitzing, sweating. That's schwitzing in Yiddish. So that was the joke with that. But I came back the next night, and my mother had people from this organization that she's part of over. I've heard the names hundreds of times over the years, never met these people. So I went over there again to sort of pay my respects, and hey, there's free food, so why not? So I went over there, and there were all these different people that I've heard the names a million times but never met, so now I met them for the first time. And there was one lady who I will name, Yvette Kupferman. I went to Hebrew school with her daughter, Jill. I might have been, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, going way back. This is 30 plus years ago. And I remembered, for whatever reason, what Yvette looked like. And she looked practically the same. I said, Yvette, how are you? I recognized her in that, and she said, yeah, you went to Hebrew school with my daughter Jill, and this and that. And it was really something to see her after 30 years. That was really something. But anyway, that's pretty much the deal. That's how it went. And Grandma's in a better place now. The best news about the whole death and all that is that she didn't have any pain. She didn't go out whimpering and crying or anything like that. She just went out, well, for lack of a better term, retarded upstairs, because the Alzheimer really took over. When I spoke to her about a year prior, she kind of only half knew who I was and would forget who she's talking to. And my mother said she didn't even recognize her anymore, so she was certainly in her own world. But at least she wasn't complaining, oh, my leg hurts, oh, my head hurts, oh, my arm hurts, this and that. Nothing. So she just pretty much died of natural causes. She couldn't swallow anymore, and they couldn't give her any sustenance, and she just stopped breathing, and that was the end. And she went out without any pain after 98 years. Oh, and one last thing that I forgot about the speech, the way I ended it off was, I said there isn't a thing that you could buy or own today that would go for 98 years. But Grandma did it. Anyway, I just wanted to share all that with you. Thanks again for dealing with me through this difficult time. I'm dealing with it. It's not a big deal. We kind of knew this was coming. We knew this was coming for years. I mean, when you get into the high 90s, time is running out. The cats are meowing. But anyway, we knew this was coming. We just didn't know when. It's never a good time when it does. And we actually buried my grandmother on my mother's birthday. Such is. So we're going to wait on that. I don't want to call November just yet. So we're going to hold off on that one. And I'm going to leave you just knowing that, like I said, I'm hanging in there. And I'm dealing with it. And there's a lot of little things that keep reminding me of her and that. All good memories, of course. I can't remember any bad memory at all, because I guess you block them out or something, but I just remember all the good times and all the good things. Oh, one other detail I left out of the speech that I was going to say but didn't. Oh, cat fight. Sorry. One little other detail that I was going to say, again, to sort of lighten the mood, was something to the effect of, Grandma made the best grilled cheese sandwiches. I can still taste the love to this day. Well, maybe that was the butter. And of course that would have gotten a laugh. So, like I said, I'm getting along, and things are doing fine. And pretty soon I'm going to record some more videos, and I have tons of stuff, as you know, from back when that haven't been released yet. So I'm going to go ahead and keep releasing some new, some old, and you'll see everything eventually. Thanks for sticking with me through this process. And just know that I'm in good enough spirits to keep on moving. Thanks for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.